war for talent has always been an important aspect of getting the right people to work for the organization. This continues, and the traditional methods of compensation and different kind of benefits continue to be very important, but today is not a sufficient factor to continue to attract and retain the right people. Now, one of the big levers that was used traditionally was to sell careers to people. And given the very project based, skill based work that is happening today, this entire concept of long careers is gone out of the window. Now, given that situation, what are some of the innovative ways that we are using today to ensure that the right talent continues to be completely engaged and is happy to actually join the organization? Now, one of the big things which is being done today is to sell experiences. So the entire journey of people from the time they join the organization till the time they start settling into their roles and start making impact is curated, and each point of action and the experience therefore is very well orchestrated. The second thing which people do today is to ensure that the professional value of people go up as they come inside the organization through training, development, exposure, and project work that is given to them. Essentially, what I'm telling them is that if you join me and you work with me, your market value is going to become much better than what it was before. Third big thing which people do is to give experience across different genre of work or completely different point of time of work. And that excites today's generation to work with us.
Most organizations today have come to terms with the fact that we are dealing with diverse generations of people as a workforce in the same location and sometimes within the same teams. We have teams which have people who are tenured for 15, 20 years in the organization, come from a generation where we believe that as long as I get rewarded adequately in terms of recognition, promotion, and compensation, they feel more fulfilled at work. And then we have another generation of workforce which believes that apart from these traditional methods of compensating, they would like to have assignments which take them outside of their current zone of comfort. And that could mean within the country, outside of their current function. And they believe the learning comes from there, which makes their jobs currently more enriching. And then we have a new generation which has come and say, I need to find more meaning and purpose in my work, which is not aligned just to the subject matter expertise and gaining the knowledge and the technical expertise that is required. So for organizations which sometimes have all these three generations within one team or within one organization, tend to have to use diverse strategies to recruit as well as to retain these people. It's not simple, but most organizations have begun to build the capability that apart from traditional methods of retaining talent, have come up with multiple ways of encouraging people to come into the organization, find their purpose, continue to stay committed to the organization. From our organization's point of view, we recognize that it's a challenging environment. It's an environment that doesn't come up with a simple boxed solution. Therefore, our endeavor continues to be listen to the employees, understand what the needs of the cohort are, deliver something which is consistent to our values.
Utilizing AI models in recruitment is absolutely essential today. I think many progressive companies got on the bandwagon and are utilizing AI with various kinds of success. Now, days when AI was used just for a process of eliminating wrong candidates is gone, and we are in the process of now building very strong AI models which can predict the right candidate, and the success of those candidates are being developed. Having said that, recruitment continues to be something where there is culture, there is a context, there is an industry, And at the intersection of all these, a feel for human touch, empathy. At IKS Health, we take this process very seriously. There are various kinds of process which is followed at different levels of recruitment. After the first initial contact with the machine, once the interview process starts, we ensure first active listening. So all our recruiters actually try and hear the real aspirations. Two, many of our hiring managers are great storytellers, and we actually teach them how to bring the entire employer value proposition to life. This is so essential for a prospective candidate to see what is it that they are getting into. The third thing we ensure is to see that people very clearly are able to articulate what kind of impact they want to make.
AI is like Google Maps. It gets you close, but you still need to look up. You need to read the directions. And sometimes you also need to roll down your windows, and ask for directions. So essentially, the point is that AI is here to enhance. It's not here to replace human judgment, right? And it's brilliant at sifting profiles through volumes. It can crunch time, identifying patterns, finding resumes and matches. But is that really hiring? Hiring happens in a conversation. That's when you get to know what you're trying to hire, who you're trying to hire, and what's going to be the value once they come into your system. Because at the end of the day, it's about culture. So think of recruitment as casting a play, okay? Not just finding someone who can deliver the lines, but someone who brings your presence, brings in empathy and the intent to the role. And it also helps shortlist profiles. It can help you decode a little bit. It can't really help you decode, rather, when somebody's pausing, what makes them smile, what's their presence in the room altogether. So all of that is not something that AI can necessarily and bring to the table. Seth Godin normally says that the race to the bottom is really easy, but the race to the top requires intentionality. And the top is about hiring with purpose. That means that you value non-linear career paths, you embrace, people who are wanting to come back to work, and you also see beyond just keywords and potential. So, it's something like human in a loop model, that where AI handles the efficiency and humans bring the discernment part of it. And that's where the entire thing comes in very beautifully, that technology has no quality on its own, but it's how you use it is what matters.
I think recruitment since the beginning has been a very human interface heavy process. Right from the time you get a first call from the recruiter or the consultant or the hiring manager till the time the individual walks out with an offer letter and sometimes even post offer engagement, it's been a heavily human driven process. In between, I think there was some technology which really helped us to cut short the process of human interaction, because when you also build in too many human touch points, what it also does is increase the amount of vantage points that come into play when you have to make a decision about a candidate. In order to create more efficiency, in order to bring in a more unified experience for the potential employee, organizations had started to deploy video interfacing to do phone calls and to do interviews, using artificial intelligence and tools to screen resumes, in some cases even blot out the gender and the background of the individual to give a more equal employable opportunity to the individual who's interviewed. Despite all these techniques, I think what has stayed consistent is when we as organizations and hiring managers prioritize the experience of the individual. And that could mean anything depending upon the environment you're hiring. For some organizations, it could be having those 7-8 rounds of interviews gives them the opportunity to give the potential employee a very good window into what the organization is about. And then you have organizations which say, listen, 2 rounds are more than enough, because I believe it's important for the candidate to have a feel and not feel that they're pulled into multiple rounds of conversation, meeting 17 different people to get a job. So the human interaction and the intensity of that interaction will continue to remain, in my view. AI or any sort of technology tool can potentially help us simplify the process, make it more engaging, or in some case even amplify the impact that we choose to achieve. But it will not take up. Organizations will continue to rely on technology and different tools to make the experience more refined, to sometimes amplify the experience we want potential candidates to have. The importance of having individuals in the process, whether that's a hiring manager presenting the role, whether that's a HR recruiter presenting the organization, or iterator reliability, all of this is going to continue to be important for us.
Managing a robust talent supply chain is going to be absolutely crucial for us to win in the market. When I talk about talent supply chain, typically has two segments. You manage the internal talent for sustainability, and you also invite fresh talent for newer skills and innovation. So let's take a look at the sustainability part. I mean, typically, if we have to manage our internal workforce, we will need to have very clearly defined career architecture, a very clear defined internal job market, and succession planning, which leads the right candidate to take up the right position when it goes vacant. But most important will be, how do we create a mindset amongst managers so that they don't become the talent hoarders? What I mean by that is that once a person is selected for a new role, the manager who has him in his team should be able to let him go. So upgrading internal talent while also focusing on bringing newer talent, infusing newer talent in the organization is going to be essential, but the backbone of that is going to be right workforce management processes. So we will need to decide what kind of people in what numbers at what time that we need to have, and then use both this internal growth as well as external infusion in the right manner to get the right combination. That, if done well, will mean that the organization is going to be never starved of great talent.
Well, not an easy answer given the dynamic ecosystem that we are operating in, because at any point, no organization or team will be able to say one is more important than the other. I have found that an integrated approach helps. Being able to find a good balance of internal upskilling, growing people within the pipeline, bring them up to a level of competence, because then there is institutional knowledge that you don't have to replicate. At the same time, bringing in a good mix of external talent to bring in that perspective, industry knowledge is equally important to keep the business mix fresh. So is there one approach to be able to doing this? Not really, but each of these approaches requires a certain degree of investment, a certain degree of commitment, not just from the human resources organization, but from the business as well. And all of these initiatives, when done consistently over a period of time, is bound to show results.